I stood there smiling, nodding politely, as my boss congratulated the whole team for the huge win. My huge win. Every part of me screamed to speak up, to finally claim the credit I'd earned. But instead, I stayed silent, shrinking back into that familiar, quiet place. Later that night, lying awake in bed, something Jung once said echoed relentlessly in my mind. What you deny enslaves you. I realized right then, I wasn't being humble, I was afraid. Afraid of being seen, of standing out, of the judgment I'd face if I dared acknowledge my own greatness. And every time I held myself back, pretending modesty, another piece of my true self slipped further into the shadows, quietly sabotaging my happiness and draining my potential. That's when I understood humility wasn't saving me. It was slowly erasing me. Real humility doesn't demand self-erasure. Let's face this truth together right now. Because the price of playing small isn't just missed opportunities. It's the quiet self-betrayal that leaves you empty at night, wondering who you could have been. The smile flashes automatically, but behind your eyes, something quietly shatters. Words bubble up inside, charged and meaningful, yet dissolve unspoken, lost to a silence you've learned too well. Ideas flicker and fade, never daring to fully shine, because shining makes others uncomfortable. You've worn that polite mask for years, confusing humility with invisibility, blending into the background, safely unseen. But each swallowed truth is a tiny betrayal. Every muted brilliance another lock on the cage around your authentic self. The problem isn't humility itself, but the quiet erosion of your essence. You aren't modestly stepping back. You're retreating out of fear. Fear of judgment, rejection, of someone whispering you're too much. Yet each careful retreat makes the next easier, reinforcing your unconscious belief that your power, your voice, and your presence must remain subdued. This suppression isn't free. It exacts a heavy toll, surfacing as sleepless nights, anxiety, or envy toward those daring to be seen. It's exhausting, isn't it? This hidden struggle to hold back the life you're truly meant to live. Real humility is recognizing your worth without hiding from it, standing firmly in your truth without apology. And once you dare to shed the false smile, embracing rather than denying your shadow, you unlock a power that doesn't scream, doesn't boast, but undeniably transforms. Carl Jung didn't sugarcoat the truth. He warned us clearly, whatever you refuse to face will quietly control your life. Every talent you hide, every ambition you bury, every truth you swallow becomes an energy trapped, restless, and waiting. It lingers beneath your smiles and polite nods, unseen but fiercely alive, pacing like a caged animal, hungry to break free. Pretending it doesn't exist won't erase it. Instead, this unacknowledged power festers, seeping out slowly through cracks in your composure. It surfaces as sleepless nights, knots of anxiety twisting tighter, a sharp pang of envy as you watch others thrive. Quietly, bitterness fills the spaces where joy should live. Your neglected brilliance, denied and buried, becomes a shadow growing larger, darker, until it consumes your peace and clouds your clarity. This is not about managing your ego. It is about reclaiming your essence. Jung called it shadow work, diving deep into the hidden parts of yourself you've been taught to fear. Until you courageously integrate these suppressed gifts, your boldness, creativity, power, you'll remain incomplete, a pale reflection of who you're meant to be. Real transformation begins when you stop running and finally turn inward, meeting your shadow face to face. Only then can you harness the strength you've mistakenly labeled dangerous. Only then can you move freely, powerfully, authentically, no longer controlled by what you've denied, but energized by what you've bravely reclaimed. Real humility doesn't demand self-erasure. It's not swallowing pride when you've earned the spotlight, or softly whispering, "It was luck," when you fought hard every step of the way. Genuine humility recognizes worth without apology. It doesn't shrink from greatness. It wears it openly, comfortably, honestly. Yet most of us confuse humility with invisibility, mistaking self-minimization for virtue. Jung warned us clearly about this. Whatever we refuse to own becomes our shadow, quietly controlling us from the depths. Every whispered denial of our brilliance, every withheld truth, every gift muted by fear. That's not humility at work, it's insecurity, wrapped neatly in politeness, woven deeply from the threads of societal judgment. Underneath that false modesty hides an anxious whisper, afraid that shining too brightly will blind others, push them away, make them uncomfortable. So we choose silence over authenticity, invisibility over impact, thinking it's safer. But the price is devastatingly high. We lose our energy, our purpose, and ultimately ourselves. Look around closely. The voices dominating conversations, platforms, and podiums aren't necessarily the brightest or most talented. They're simply the ones unafraid to speak, stepping boldly into spaces you quietly vacate. As you politely hold back your wisdom, someone with half your skill confidently claims center stage. Every apology for your excellence hands another piece of your birthright to mediocrity. We either step forward into growth or backward into safety. Yet safety isn't real when it comes at the cost of authenticity. It's a comfortable illusion slowly suffocating your spirit. Each suppressed idea, each hidden strength, weakens your presence, teaching your subconscious mind that your voice doesn't matter. This isn't modesty. It's self-abandonment wrapped neatly in socially approved silence. Your quiet compliance is mediocrity's greatest ally, because every brilliant insight you keep locked away makes room for shallow noise to thrive. Realize this: playing small doesn't just keep you unnoticed. It gradually erases who you truly are, leaving resentment, anxiety, and frustration in its wake. Stepping fully into your potential means rejecting false humility, recognizing your worth, and owning your space unapologetically. It's not arrogance, it's integrity. It's authenticity. It's psychological liberation. Because only when you dare to claim your rightful place can you inspire others to do the same. Remember, the world needs your authentic voice, not another quiet echo lost in the background. At night, the truth whispers loudly, painting scenes of who you might have become if only you dared claim your space. The person buried beneath politeness and quiet smiles calls urgently for recognition. You're not humble. You're hesitant. Not modest, just trained to hide. But shadows don't vanish when ignored. They grow stronger, heavier, demanding acknowledgement. True humility isn't about shrinking. It's about authentically stepping forward, fully embracing the brilliance you've always carried. Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's your hidden strength, patiently waiting to illuminate the life you're meant to live. For years, I believed my shadow held nothing but darkness, the tangled mess of flaws and insecurities I'd rather forget. But then, in a quiet therapy session one afternoon, my therapist gently revealed something unexpected, something Jung himself understood deeply. The shadow doesn't just hide your faults, it guards your greatest gifts. My voice, the one I'd learned to soften because someone once rolled their eyes, calling it too loud. My charisma, dimmed out of fear it might overwhelm friends who preferred a quieter me. Leadership skills I downplayed, afraid of stepping forward and being labeled arrogant. My fire, my passion, contained and smothered, convinced it burned too brightly for others to handle. Each gift was carefully tucked away, layered beneath apologies and polite smiles, until I became a watered-down version of myself. It felt safe, it felt acceptable. But beneath the surface, something important. Withered, starved by my relentless modesty. The truth slowly dawned. Hiding my strength didn't make me humble. It made me incomplete. Because when we lock away our brightest qualities, our voice, our passion, our power, we lose ourselves bit by bit. Jung warned us that whatever we refuse to accept doesn't disappear. It simply festers quietly, fueling resentment, sadness, regret. Our hidden gold becomes as damaging as our buried wounds, both crying out desperately for acknowledgement. The shadow isn't merely darkness, it's untapped light, patiently waiting for permission to shine again. Every time you silence your truth, you leave space for mediocrity to thrive. That quiet colleague who dominates despite lesser insight, they're not more talented, they're just unafraid to speak. Your restraint isn't humility, it's self-betrayal. And fear? It doesn't just hide in silence, it steers your entire life from the shadows. Jung was right. What we bury doesn't disappear. It loops, repeating disappointment in disguise. But there's a way out. Confidence isn't a trait, it's a skill. One built step by shaky step, each time you choose to show up fully instead of fading politely away. I used to watch quietly from the sidelines, clutching insights I knew could help others, but never daring to speak up. I called it humility, believing my silence was respectful, thoughtful, even noble. But then I remembered Nietzsche's piercing words. He who has a why can bear almost any how. And suddenly, clarity struck. The real arrogance wasn't speaking up. It was holding back my voice, my skills, my ability to guide or inspire others, while quietly watching their struggles deepen. Genuine humility isn't about hiding your strength. It's about owning it fully without needing to diminish others. When we hide what we know, pretending we don't have answers to avoid discomfort, we betray not just ourselves, but the very people we claim to protect. That's not kindness. It's cowardice wrapped neatly in false modesty. Every withheld truth, every unshared insight eventually turns against us, silently dictating our choices, shaping our regret. Psychologically, what we bury doesn't vanish. It festers beneath our carefully maintained facades. Aristotle warned us clearly. Virtues, when hidden, lose their power. True strength demands honest expression, not muted restraint. Real arrogance is knowing you could positively impact someone's life, yet choosing silence instead. It's having wisdom to share, but selfishly hoarding it out of fear. You are not humble when you withhold your greatness. You're simply letting fear control your story, turning your potential into regret. Because ultimately, the truths we hide quietly begin to control us, until we courageously set them free. Philosopher Alain de Botton echoes Jung, reminding us that avoiding self-awareness only deepens our invisible prisons. Every strength we silence, every passion we bury, out of fear, becomes the invisible hand controlling our days. We tell ourselves we're humble, modest, reasonable, but often it's fear that's quietly driving, repeating the same tired patterns, steering us into familiar disappointments. What we hide doesn't disappear. It becomes a script running beneath the surface, pulling our strings from the shadows. Breaking that cycle means choosing courage over comfort, facing the parts of ourselves we've buried for too long. The truth is, the key to freedom isn't found in escape or performance. It's in reclaiming what we were once afraid to show. The moment you begin to honor those hidden strengths, the shadows loosen, and your life finally starts to feel like your own. So how do we begin? Confidence is a skill, not a trait. That means we build it, one small, deliberate act at a time. A clear boundary, a steady thank you, a voice that speaks even when it shakes, and most of all, a presence that no longer asks for permission to exist. Start small. Next time someone compliments your effort, pause, let it land, then simply respond, "Thank you. I worked hard for that." Feel the strength in owning your achievements without shrinking back. Notice how respect grows in their eyes, and yours. But what about that fear gripping your chest in challenging conversations? Choose one room you're nervous to speak in, a meeting, a tough discussion, and speak clearly, even if your voice trembles. Each shaky sentence becomes courage realized, loosening fear's grip one word at a time. And when someone pushes your limits, quietly testing your resolve, don't silently agree. Set a clear boundary. Say no firmly, calmly, without explanation. Guard your energy. Protect your power. Then there's credit, the hardest lesson of all. When you achieve something meaningful, stand tall and claim it openly. Take that recognition without apology. You've earned it, and showing humility doesn't mean hiding your value. Finally, hold eye contact. No more glancing down when delivering your truth. Look directly into the eyes across from you and speak authentically. Because reclaiming your voice isn't merely about speaking more. It's about being heard, respected, and fully alive in the presence you've cultivated. If your entire identity hinges on someone else's approval, you're never safe. You're a puppet to praise, dancing frantically on strings held by anonymous hands. Who would you become if the applause vanished tomorrow? If the audience disappeared, leaving only silence? Could you face the empty seats? Could you bear the stillness, or would your identity crumble? It's life or death for your authenticity. Strip away the audience. Step beyond the endless need for claps, likes, and recognition. Discover the raw, fierce truth beneath. Your power, your strength, your essence. Stop performing. Stop asking permission. Stop begging for praise. Because only when applause no longer defines you can you finally breathe, unshackled, whole, alive. So here's my invitation. Right now, type these 3 simple words in the comments below. I'm done hiding. Write it boldly. Declare it clearly. Send a message, not just to the world, but to yourself, to your future, to the voice inside that's waited far too long for permission. Because the world isn't starving for another quiet, agreeable face. It aches for authenticity, for voices unfiltered, powerful, and awake. Your journey doesn't end with this moment. It starts here, right now. So step forward, step into your truth. Embrace it fully, fiercely, unapologetically. Because the minute you stop hiding, you finally start living. Choose one of the videos on screen now and continue this journey of reclaiming your power. And truly, thank you for being part of Mosaic Mind.